Yo, 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 what's going on? It's your man AC Star, and this is the AC Star Morning Show. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the AC Star Morning Show. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about white rage, white hot rage, and how the white Trump supporters and some black have waged war on America to save whiteness, aka white privilege. What I'm going to be talking about today is pretty much what this rally was really about, its intentions, the people who were behind it, whether or not there were insiders. We all know that there were. We've seen the images day in and day out of the past 5 or 6 days of the white rage and the anger and the sheer ignorance and the sheer pandemonium that these people created. Because it was serious. And I think within the black community, when things like this happen, we tend to want to go back to business as usual and act like our life is somehow, immune to things like this, and we got to keep going and we don't pay attention. See, there's a segment of society that knew this was going to happen, right? The aunts and uncles and the cousins and the co-workers and the supervisors of these people that we seen march on Washington January 6th. We know deep down inside that a lot of white Americans ignored the behaviors, ignored the rhetoric, ignored the threats, because they figured this thing called our Constitution would hold. See, but what I understand about the Constitution is, yes, it's a living document. It expands, it stretches, it does all kind of things. And in our history, it really hasn't broken. It really hasn't been tested a lot. It's been tested here, the civil rights, 1876, the civil rights Civil War, things of that nature. But has it really been tested? Has it really been stretched to its capacity to where we start seeing the fibers rip and tear and weaken? I think that's where we are today. But we're here because we have a great segment of society that likes to ignore the white hot rage that I speak of. They like to look at it as just steam that needs to be blown off because these people feel left behind. These people feel forgotten. How can you feel forgotten and left behind in a nation that you stole? That you've benefited from for 200 and 400 plus years? Your whiteness has given you the ability to do things that other racial and ethnic groups are not allowed to do. To partake in actions that the rest of the world see as inhumane and savage. Who will stop these people? You hear this, we gotta come together, unity, 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 unity. And you're hearing it from people who will never unify, who will never seek to bring this nation together. Because they know if they bring this nation together, it will be the end of their culture and it will be the beginning of something new. We have to think about how long this nation has been dominated by white Eurocentric ideology. And how for so long, as the leading empire in the world, white citizens felt like they were on top of the world. And that they were the preeminent citizens of this globe. But with changing times, migration, immigration, the demographics of America are changing dramatically. We all hear the anecdotal ideas of in 2050, the white race will be a minority. So let's really look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Here you have a group of people who created an empire, created a nation state called the United States of America with 13 colonies. And then they expanded to 50 states. And now they have several territories. And for the most part, they rule the world. Unabashed, unchallenged. So now they're faced with losing that position, losing that power. Having brown neighbors and Asian neighbors and black neighbors and Hispanic neighbors. Those once lofty bedroom suburban communities we always dreamed of and was always told to stay out are now being inhabited by the others. Those once proud northeastern cities and midwestern towns that was once ran by white men and women are now being led by black men, Asian men, Latino men and women. The demographics of America is changing, but also the mosaic of America is changing. It's no longer just a white and black, few Hispanics, few Latinos. You have people from all over the world here now, looking for their American dream, looking for their piece of the pie. But do they realize that the pie is actually on the ground right now? That hot, warm apple pie that sits in your grandmother's window to cool off has been knocked on the ground. The taste of American pie is no longer sweet from the cinnamon or the sugar that's added to the pie, or the al dente taste of the apples that's in the pie. It's now mixed with the grit and the mud and the dirt and the blood and the tears of America and its foul ways. So now when those foreigners taste that pie and they search for that piece of pie, does it taste the same? Do they understand what's that foul taste that's in the pie? When they come here and they become Republicans and they become the Mia Loves of the world and they join the Republican Party and they champion the Republican cause, and then they're summarily dismissed because they didn't stand by whiteness. Not understanding how deep whiteness goes in America. Not understanding that if you have allegiance to whiteness or you try to pledge allegiance to whiteness, you must understand what that is. That it's not about exceptionalism. It's really only about whiteness and the power of whiteness. So how does that American pie taste now? How does the idea of America taste now after witnessing January 6th? See, you have some that want to play it off and be like, oh, they didn't do anything. They got pushed out. Oh, they scattered. The job was done. They tested the security of the United States of America. They seen how far they could go. They seen how far they can push. You ever heard that saying? A person only gonna do to you what you let them. And they let them get in. And now there's all these questions swirling around about whether they're insiders. Of course they're insiders. Those Capitol Police are regular, everyday American citizens just like the rest of us. Just like the white hot rage that we see in this picture I have up. Because see, to these men and women, that's their house. It doesn't belong to the black people. It doesn't belong to the Asian people. It belongs to the white citizens. See, they know this is their white nation. They know what this nation was founded on. But we live in a cowardice globe where those who also know are not willing to tell you the truth. That this is about whiteness. Nothing else. This is about the privilege of whiteness to say that we demand that those black votes that costed our great dear leader this election be summarily tossed out. This is not their country. We allow them to be here. They should be happy that we allow them to vote. They should be happy that we allow them to live amongst us. So they're going to have to sit this one out and understand that whiteness rules the day and their vote don't count. But what we've all learned is that's not true. Our vote still counts. That thing called the Constitution still stands. It was stretched to its ends, but it didn't break. Not only did it not break, but some of those congressmen and senators came back out on the House and Senate floor and they did their jobs. Even knowing that there was people in there hours earlier that wanted them dead, that chanted death to them, that had operatives that were looking for them. We seen individuals in different pictures in different scenarios that had all kind of weapons, all kind of things going on. They had coordinated efforts and attempts to kidnap and detain political officials because they were going to let these political officials know you will not usurp our whiteness. You will not push this fast forward button on the changing of America. We will control this change. And what they will learn is you can't control nature. It does its own thing. And the demographic change that we see in America is natural. The once inhabitants of it, known as the Latinos and the Mexicans, who are of native blood, who are of a Mongolian blood, who traveled the barren straits to find food and resources in our pre-dawn days of civilization. And as they traveled the globe trying to find their places, they settled on America. They settled on South America, North America, what we now know as Canada, United States, Mexico, South America, Central America. And as time went on, they came across these others who pushed them down, who killed them, who got rid of them, and created these territories we now know as the United States of America and Canada. So now as these people return back to their natural inhabitants and their natural home, because nature works that way and that's universal law, we're now seeing the pushback. We're now seeing you won't take this land from me. But the universe has another idea. But for those of us who are caught in the midst of this right now, what do we do? How do we react? How do we absorb what we seen on January 6th? How do we process that? If you're a black conservative, I've heard them cheer and use a false equivalency to say, well, Black Lives Matter and Antifa did this all summer. So now you guys want to be up in arms because white people peacefully protested on the Capitol? And they say that weak bullshit because they realize they're on a losing team. And the only thing they can do is say some bullshit like that to save face. Because they know that shit makes no sense. To compare people breaking into convenience stores and Walmarts and stores who has insurance and can replace those material goods and fix those windows and have them boarded up and shoveled up and cleaned up by the weekend. Yes, some of those businesses might not recover. Yes, it was a tragedy that some of those things happened. But those are just businesses. They're not the seat of our federal government. They're not the seat of our power. These people marched on and stormed the United States Capitol and was successful in breaching it to the point where they had elected officials cowering in fear, praying, wishing, hoping that the mob didn't get him. Because they knew, and they always knew, how these people felt. So what do we do now, ladies and gentlemen? How do we reconcile what's going on here? I want to give a big shout out to Hooded One. I want to give a big shout out to Darren Marion. Peace to y'all for coming through. Please hit the share and the like button. Tell a friend to tell a friend that the HD Star Morning Show is live. And today's topic is white hot rage. Now, Sunday is usually the time when we have all our Sunday shows, and you have the dignitaries, and you have all these people come on and they talk about how they feel that this time is and what they see, that where the nation is going, and so many people asking what's taking place and how do we deal with this, and they're going to the great political minds and the historians, and what I've noticed from all of them is this lack of understanding of how they were complicit in this. Those media figures don't understand. When you had Donald Trump on your network in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, talking about Barack Obama wasn't a legitimate president, that was the beginning. That was the planting of this soil, the seeds in the soil. He was beginning to plant the seeds in these people. He was beginning to let them know it's time to stand up. See, because if we want to be honest, that's where all this started. November 4th, 2008, with the election of Barack Hussein Obama. See, most people won't think about the fact that a black man rose to power in the greatest white civilization ever. Because this is the greatest empire ever. There is none parallel to this in history. Their riches, their power, their might. People talk about China and Russia being their competitors. No, not really. Not really. And even this thing at the Capitol, it doesn't necessarily weaken America globally, but it weakens us internally. And that's what they want more than anything. See, our adversaries don't want war with us. They want the war within to destroy us. Because, see, they're very aware of the racial animus and the racial structure of America. They're very aware of it. And they know how America plays. But they're also very aware of how volatile that is. And how it may be the undoing of America. Sometimes our press, our political punditry, they add more fuel to the fire than they will lead you on to believe. See, because they are aware of this, ladies and gentlemen. They, like I said earlier, they know they uncles and cousins and friends and all that. They know how they feel about Donald Trump. They know they were Donald Trump sycophants. They were the ones who talked about not talking to their cousins and aunts and uncles again when it came to Donald Trump. You rarely had that conversation in the black community where whole families was broken up because of Donald Trump. But you had that dynamic in the white community where aunts and uncles and cousins and brothers and sisters don't speak anymore. And where did you hear that language at before? During the Civil War. Now, I don't want to be hyperbole and say that we're facing a civil war. I just want to say we're at war. And however you want to label that war, that's up to you. But please know we're at war. And for all the black people that want to go on talking about Kevin Samuels and weaves and black female fuckery and be lost in all that shit, have at it. Have at it. As the nation you live in unravels geopolitically, domestically, politically, socially, have at it. See, because of what I want you guys to understand is the bulk of those people that was in those gallows and in that gallery and in those, not gallows, in that chamber and in those halls of Congress, they don't give a fuck about no black people. Because if they gave a fuck about black people, they would respect the vote of the black people in Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Atlanta. Who we readily can say is the reason why Trump lost. We know that these are the only votes they're trying to overturn. Think about that. These people were willing to face federal prosecution to undo the black vote. Because that's all this is about, ladies and gentlemen. How could this nation allow those black people to vote Donald Trump out of office? How? How can we give them that? How can we, white America, stand by and allow for these black people, for the 17th percentile of this nation, to determine the path of this nation? How can we do that? Democracy, the Constitution doesn't speak for them. It speaks for us, the white citizens. It doesn't speak for those, the black citizens. Where does a nation go when 74 million citizens think that the vote of 80 million people should be overturned for the good of whiteness? Where does a populace go when you're faced with that uncertainty? Where does a nation such as this go when we're back to primitive relations amongst the citizens? Because that was primitive, what those people did in DC. That was primitive. That was scenes that you would see in the 1300s or the 12th century or the 11th century, and the castles of Ireland and the castles of Normandy and the castles of France. You notice where I said the castles in European countries. Because see, in European countries, when they want to overthrow the government, that's what they do. They go and they siege the seat of their federal nation state government, and they demand that their voices be heard and that their commands be adhered to. Be damned with all the other citizens. We the done wrong, we the oppressed, we the forgotten. We want what we want, and we want it now. It's kind of like that episode of What's Happening. Remember this one? No Roger, no rerun, no rent. No Roger, no rerun, no rent. So what they're saying is no Trump, no Pence, no America. No Trump. I'm going to take that back because they threatened to kill Pence. So no Trump, no America. So they're gambling to say that if we don't have the leader we don't want a nation. Not understanding that if the nation falls, we're all going to suffer. We're all going to struggle. Those that have the means and the and the bunkers and things of that nature, and those beautiful homes and those palatial homes that we see in all those suburbs, guess what? Those poor white people are gonna run down on you. Yeah, they're gonna come for you just like they came for the Capitol. Your fellow citizens, your fellow brethren. See, I don't see a reconcile. I don't see a unity here. Only thing I see is if the opposition don't crush Trump supporters, it's over. How can you stop 74 million people from making a mess in the nation? See, this is not the time of the Civil War when we were so living in like olden times and antiquated days, and it wasn't nothing going on, right? We didn't have social media. We didn't have airplanes, trains, automobiles to get us from place to place in a quick time. We couldn't move and transport like we do now. One of these people bragged that they had 60 buses loaded with Trump supporters and rebellious people and rebels ready to turn this country over, ready to flip it over like a car. See, as a veteran and a former military soldier, I was telling people, you're gonna have former veterans that align with this thinking, and they're gonna take their skill sets and they're gonna use it to benefit the whole. And as we've seen with these images, there were a lot of police officers and veterans and military people there, ready to use their trained skills to do what they was gonna do. They were ready. They had command and control structure. Imagine that. They had commanding officers who gave orders, who told what to do, to go look for this particular politician or go search this politician's office. And you know what the kicker is? Jim Clyburn said, I've been in the Senate Congress for a very long time. I had this office up on the third floor that nobody even knew about. Most people who've known me don't even know about it. But for some reason, they knew where my office was at. Because somebody told them where this office was at. See, when I tell everybody when you go to war stays with you forever, right? It stays with you forever. Because your brain is not, your body as a human is not built to go to war necessarily. Not so much with your fellow man, maybe with the elements, nature, things of that, because that's how we evolve, as we go to war with nature and learn to become immune to diseases and become immune to falling, and that's how we evolved. So you're not really born to go to war. So when you go to war, it kind of sticks with you. Even if you don't see great combat or you're not on the front lines and you're support in the back, the whole idea of conflict and war kind of sticks with you. So when I try to give my opinion on the Trumpsters and their behavior, I try to tell people there's a lot of people in the military or veterans that's down with this dude. So now you're faced with not knowing an untold number of military veterans with particular skills. And I seen something on Morning Joe this morning. It was a senator. I think his name is Crow. I think it's Crow. Former Ranger, right? Former Ranger. Now, a lot of you guys, like a BMT might know this, a few other guys might know this, right? But Ranger training is extremely difficult. Extremely. Like, my father was a Ranger, and to know that he did that, I always be like, damn, Dad, but he didn't live long enough for me to him and have those conversations about what it took for him to do that. But I know it took a lot out of him because he didn't have much left when he came home. But he was saying that as a Ranger, it was just really odd to be in that situation that I was in wartime, but to know I was facing it dealing with my fellow Americans. It's pictures of him consoling and being, attentive to his fellow women representatives that was scared shitless. Who wouldn't be scared shitless if you a 60-something-year-old woman with no weapon and you hear a mob outside screaming for your death? And he said, only thing I thought was to save myself. He's like, I took off my pen to defend myself. He was going to do some MacGyver shit and use whatever means he had necessary to save his life. And this is a trained Ranger. Rangers knock on your door 4 o'clock in the morning. They not playing with you. And here it is. He was in a position where he felt helpless. And the only thing he had to defend himself was an ink pen. And then he told the other senators and congressmen, take your pens off. Take all things that they can readily identify you so you won't become a high value target. Hear that, Kevin Samuels? High value target. Not high value man. Not high value woman. But high value target. Because that's the order of the day. Not black female fuckery. Not high value men. The order of the day is high value targets. And right now, the United States of America is a high value target. The Congress is meeting right now to draw up articles of impeachment for Donald Trump. Because right now, Donald Trump is a high value target. See, for so long, black people, we always misplace our fortunes or misplace our lives in bullshit. We mired in fuckery and bullshit. So when something as serious as this happens, we're still mired in fuckery and bullshit. Because we don't have the ability to understand that this is our country too. Irregardless of how they treat us, irregardless of how they oppress us, this is our fucking home, ladies and gentlemen. Just as many black men and women have died for this nation as white or any ethnic group, religion, creed, or nationality. Crispus Attucks was the first person to die for what we now know as the United States of America. If we want to talk about shots fired, that was a shot fired. See, white hot rage, it will not be limited to the Capitol building. It will not be limited to Walmart parking lots in Tennessee. It will not be limited to state capitals in Washington State and Michigan, or governor's mansions in Washington State and Michigan. It will not be limited to Jacob Blake, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland. See, we was only getting sprinkles of it. Now this is metastasized. So now we're going to get the white hot blob. And before we know it, it's going to permeate everywhere. Are we ready? Is the nation ready? Will we get the same protection that the congressmen and congresswomen and senators got at the Capitol building? Will we get the same protection the Lincoln Memorial got during the Black Lives Matter rally in the summer? Will there be general enrées out there to tell those soldiers, put your gun down? Don't point it at your fellow citizens. Will there be wolves amongst the sheep of National Guardmen and reservists who patrol our cities when this white hot rage spills out? Will we get the same protections? I doubt it very seriously. Will we have to fend for ourselves? I think so. See, because right now America's in an upheaval. Think about this. There was an insurrection on the United States Capitol building on January 6, 2021. Have we seen one press conference of any federal law official to say what happened, who will be investigated, what took place, how it will never happen again? Have we been reassured as a nation that this will never happen again? No, we have not. Because we have an administration that has no command and control. That has no leadership that will come out and tell the people that it's going to be okay, that we're going to work through this. We don't have that. So what we have is the Ted Cruz's of the world, the Michael Ices of the world, Republicans of the world standing up saying, we need unity. But 24 hours prior to that insurrection, they were the ones with the loudest bullhorns. They were the ones saying, charge that wall. And now, that when they charged that wall, they realized that those people wasn't charging a wall for them. They were charging a wall for themselves. And that the Ted Cruz's and the Mike Pence of the world are just as expendable as those police officers that they were beating the shit out of. It's a video out right now. I wish I can play it. Of these two Capitol police officers getting the shit beat out of them. And if you can see the anger and the rage and the sheer primitive, just guttural hate that was emanating from every blow that landed on these officers. They took trophies from them. They wore their helmets after they snatched them off their head. They used their batons and their pepper sprays against them. Because they're defending whiteness and the end of it. And they knew it was a privilege to be white in America. And they knew with that privilege came a lot of things that they didn't have to be subjected to, that other races and nationalities had to be subjected to. See, my take on black conservatives, I think y'all full of shit. I think y'all just trying to be on the winning team. Because for so long y'all seeing being a black Democrat or a black progressive or a black liberal didn't necessarily reap any benefits unless you was a poverty pimp or Tariq Nasheed, them type motherfuckers, dirtbag motherfuckers. See, the problem with black America is we think we need this messiah. We think we need these people that talk to our inner uncomfortabilities, right? Our inner primitive behaviors. See, we could follow the Tariq Nasheeds and the Umar Johnsons and all them suck-ass niggas, but guess what's gonna happen? When this shit go down, they're not gonna be on the front line doing anything. Tariq Nasheed is gonna take all that money that people donate to him and he going to the Pacific Islands. He already told you. Where he at every time some shit pop off? He over in Hawaii somewhere, Pacific Islands, right? He named his kids Mateo, names that will fit over there. So as they grow up in those Pacific Island countries, they'll be okay. See, we're not being led by people who would get us to understand the Constitution and get us to understand the process and get us to understand what being an American is. We're led by people that's telling us to be an American is somehow flawed because the white people of America are fucked up. See, black people, we can't think like that no more. We gotta take solace in what we've given to the nation. So if you pay taxes, or you educated your kids, or you own a home, or you own a business, then you've given to this nation. This is your home. If your address says any state in America, and you have a zip code, and you have an area code, and you have a governor or a mayor, and you live there, and you're a law-abiding citizen, this is your fucking home. And a bunch of racist white people can't take that away from you. See, we don't have black people standing up telling us what this is about. We have black people telling us, well, this side is fucked up and that side is fucked up. So where we at now? Because I ain't never seen no liberals march on Washington and storm Washington. So they fucked up? Because they can't get policies through? I mean, this is a lot to absorb, a lot to swallow, a lot to digest. But black Americans, we got to begin to do this shit. We can't just be standing on the sidelines all the time talking about, man, whatever, whatever, whatever. See, because if this house fall, it's going to fall on the people in the basement. And no one's going to come and dig us out, folks. We don't have global allies. You see how the Africans come for us. You see how most West Indians come for us. You see how most Latinos come for us. We have no allies in this global world. All we have is us. And now we're faced with this white rage that's spilling out because we dared to collectively speak our mind about Donald Trump. Because don't get it twisted. African Americans are the reason why Donald Trump is no longer president of the United States of America. Because if he would have won Detroit, Philly, Milwaukee, Atlanta, he would have won the election. But losing those major metropolitan areas costed him dearly, because he was actually losing like 8-2, 7-3, in some aspects 9-1. And even in winning like that, the margins in these states still came down in the 50,000 to 10,000 range. So where do we go with this white hot rage? Where do we go? How do we deal with it? How do we fundamentally express our ideas of what America should be in the midst of all this? Do we let the progressives on this left determine where we go? Do we keep listening to the whites on the right and the blacks on the right that's telling us that Donald Trump done all this and that for America? So what has Donald Trump done for America now? He's put it in a position to where if we don't get some competent leaders, it's over. I think it's over anyway. A lot of people say that I'm, overshooting it, but I think it's over. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. She's out on full display. And twinkling your nose and rubbing your nose and rubbing a lamp ain't gonna put her back in there. In the next several days, I'm gonna try to cover this more in depth. I'm gonna try to have some panels, have some different opinions. But honestly, folks, where do we go from here? How do we deal with white rage? How do we prepare ourselves for what this new America will bring? Because this will be a new America. See, what I want a lot of y'all to do, I want y'all to study civil wars in European countries. Modern civil wars. Don't go back into the 1800s or let's stay right here. Let's stay in the 1990s, 2000. Let's go to Bosnia, let's go to Ukraine and just study it. Just see what the underlying things were. Just see, what was the catalyst to it? What was the real issue behind it? And then compare it to what we seen the other day and what we're presently going through. I want to give a big shout out to Psycho, Tampa Supreme. Hey, Penny Sparks, what's up? I finally got my own, Penny. I finally done it. Penny. I finally started my own. Hooray for me. I don't know why I was so afraid to do this, y'all. And it wasn't necessarily a fear. It was just I own my own business. So I had to figure out where I fit this in and where I do this at. Where do I do this, which is my passion, talking about politics, and where do I continue to take care of my family and become a successful entrepreneur? And I just had to find that happy medium. Because me personally, I love talking about things like this. This is my passion. This is my wheelhouse. Deconstructing and putting back together Humpty Dumpty, which is America. How do we put Humpty Dumpty back? Because he didn't really fall off the wall. He kind of rolled off the wall on Wednesday. Like, he didn't fall and crack the whole egg, but it's a nice little fissure in that sucker. And he lost a few shell pieces too. But if they would have got a hold of him, they would have cracked and scrambled his ass. But they didn't. Do we put Humpty in a protective? Did any of y'all have that project in health class where you had to carry the egg around and shit, and you had to take care of your egg every day, and you had to bring it to class, and you had to put it in a nice basket and all that? Did anybody have that project in high school? I know I did. And the whole object of the project was to take care of your egg, to come back every day and show you if you was responsible for your egg. A part of me thought that was also kind of crazy, because it's like, why are you teaching us as high schoolers, seniors, about caring for a child? It was kind of like a backdoor way to say, I know you motherfuckers gonna be having sex. A few of you gonna pop up with babies for y'all leave here, so we need to give y'all like a fucked up ass simpleton course on how to take care of kids. So they gave us an egg. But how do we take care of this egg called America? And is it black man's is it our responsibility? Because I've heard some say we should be neutral and let these two white groups fight it out. And maybe that's true. Maybe we should stand on the sidelines and let them duke it out. But when they're done, they're going to be looking for one or two things. They're going to be looking for somebody to lick their wounds or somebody to call them champion. So depending on who wins, that'll determine our next move. See, because that's how serious it is. If the right win, we're going to have to fight. If the left win, we're going to have to be like, oh, Master, you did a good job. Master, you hit him with that uppercut. Master, when you hit him with that uppercut, I was like, that's right, Master. Good job. Good job. So how do we deal with that? How do we reconcile that if we stand neutral? Or do we choose a side now? Before I close, there's one caveat. If this shit fall, we may finally be free. Because if it falls, both sides are going to be too busy picking up their teeth and picking up their furniture to worry about us. And we're going to be on our own. And if the last 10, 15 years hasn't prepared us for being on our own, I don't know what will. Because we will be on our own, Black America. There will be no more trickle-down effect and that codependent relationship we have with white America. It will no longer be a parasitic relationship where the blood and the love and the courage and the dignity of Black Americans will be sucked away through oppression, through racism, through nihilism, through the lack of compassion. We will be on our own. They will no longer determine our flight. We will no longer walk up to the white man's airport and see the same destination across the board. They will no longer be the cap to our success. Peace to Antea Williams. That's my co-host, A1. Antea Williams. Y'all will be meeting her real soon. KS, what's up, young brother? That's my young brother, KS, in the building. But we will be summarily on our own. And like Antea said, as the embers and the buildings and the charred remains of a once great nation smolders, will that step kid, that badly treated kid, will he rise from those embers to become great? Will we take the mantle of this nation and lead it forward like we've always done? Because every time this nation faced the upheaval or faced something wrong or faced terrible times, y'all know who they turned to. The Union needed the black man and the black slave to defeat the Confederate. The nation needed the Harlem Hellfighters to hold in World War I. The nation needed the Big Red Ball and the Tuskegee Airmen to defeat fascism, only to allow fascism to defeat it. So will the nation call on black Americans to stand at the gates as the gates are pushed open and the gates are bum rushed by white hot rage? Are we willing as a people to stand at the gates with our fellow white citizens to hold back white rage? Or will we stand by and let them fight it out? This is your man AC Star. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the AC Star Morning Show. This was just a quick little impromptu. I just wanted to talk about white hot rage. If y'all got any questions y'all want to ask me in the chat, be my guest. We can have a conversation for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to bounce on out and get ready for Wednesday's show. So if you have any questions for me, fire away. If not, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. But I want to give a big shout out to everybody that showed up. All 8 viewers, thank you. I know I got to start small and I got to work my way up. But I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to be fervent, and I'm going to be passionate. I'm not always going to talk about serious topics, even though I'm a very serious person. I want to talk about love. I want to talk about life. But right now, my love of country and my life are at a crossroads. Because I love this country. I love it. Now, I love the other countries I've been to, too. I love Germany. I love Spain. Goddamn. But I love America. And I don't love it because it treats me bad or it treats me. I love it because I've done things in my life that a lot of my relatives has not. I've been all over the world. I've went to a great university because of my service in the army. I've been allowed to start a business. I've made some mistakes. Like a lot of people don't believe AC Star when he talk about how I was in the street. When this thing get popping, I'm gonna start bringing some of my people from the hood on here and let them tell y'all about me. But they'll tell you that I always talk like this. No matter what I did out there, I could be on the block. I'm out that motherfucker talking politics. And we out that motherfucker throwing straight boulders at the penitentiary. But I'm out there talking politics. With an asshole full of crack in my pocket. Or a pound of weed in a bag some motherfucking way. So this has never not been me. Just had to find the right platform and the right environment to speak this way. Because niggas standing outside in 20-degree weather really don't want to talk about politics. Niggas standing outside in 100-degree weather ducking 5-0 really don't want to talk about politics. In the barbershop I go to, it's hard to talk politics with them because they don't know shit about politics. Big shout out to my man Renaissance, man. Hey yo, but before I go, did y'all see the story about Peace, Penny? Thank you for coming through, baby. I appreciate the love, Penny. Thank you for coming through. With the Capitol Police officer that they say died a few days later, they're kind of digging in his background to kind of see if he was the inside mole. So, if we think that they don't have people in places to be the catalyst to unraveling this democracy, they're sorely wrong. So, yo, thank you for coming through, everybody. Thank you for listening to me. Please hit the like button. Please hit the share. Please hit the subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend that the AC Star Show is here.